There's exactly one number that decides whether you should pay off your mortgage early or invest. In 2026, that number is 6.47%. And here's the part nobody tells you. It's almost exactly the rate on your loan, which means the advice you've been fed for years was built on math that expired in 2021. Let me prove it. 2 real people, real numbers, and one uncomfortable twist most experts skip right over. Meet Ryan and Sarah. They're both 35, both earning $90,000 a year in the same city, in the same tax bracket. They just bought identical houses, took out a $400,000 mortgage at 6.5%, and each has an extra $500 a month to put to work. One difference between them, and only one. Ryan throws his $500 at the mortgage. He wants it gone. He wants to be debt-free and sleep easy. Sarah invests hers in a low-cost index fund and pays the minimum. Now, what actually changed? Back in 2021, the average mortgage rate sat around 3%. The stock market historically returns about 10. That's a 7-point gap. And over 30 years, a gap like that compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars. At 3%, always invest the difference wasn't a debate. It won every single time. But it isn't 2021 anymore. The average 30-year rate today is 6.5. When your mortgage costs 6.5 and a realistic after-tax return is around 7, that 7-point gap collapses to less than 1. Almost every video, every TikTok, every book telling you to never pay off your mortgage was filmed in a 3% world. By the end of this, Ryan and Sarah finish almost dead even. But at year 12, something happens that flips the whole decision. Hold on to that. First, you need to see how a mortgage actually works, because this is where most people get fooled. On that $400,000 loan, Ryan's monthly payment for principal and interest runs about $2,528. In the early years, almost all of it goes to interest, not to the balance you owe. The bank front-loads it. They get paid first. Picture this. If Ryan just paid the minimum, 20 years in, 2/3 of the way through, he'd still owe more than half the original loan. Over the full 30 years, he'd hand the bank more than $500,000 in interest alone. More than the house cost. That's exactly why paying extra early is so powerful. Every extra dollar kills future interest while the balance is at its highest. So watch what his $500 a month does. Instead of 30 years, the mortgage is gone in 19 years and 5 months. He saves $205,000 in interest. 200 grand, guaranteed, pulled straight out of the bank's pocket and back into his. That feels unbeatable, right? It feels obvious. So how could Sarah, making minimum payments, doing nothing special, still come out ahead? Watch what happens when we stop guessing and run the actual numbers. Let's start at year 5, because this is where it gets psychological. Ryan's ahead of schedule, his balance is dropping fast, and his statement looks great every single month. No volatility, just progress. He feels like he's winning. Sarah? Year 1 was fine. Year 2, the market dropped 15% and her account looked terrifying. On every emotional scoreboard, Ryan is crushing her. Now run it all the way to year 30. Ryan pays the house off in 19 years. Then something powerful happens. His entire mortgage payment vanishes, and he takes that plus his $500, $3,028 a month, and pours all of it into investing. He's late to the party, but he shows up with 5 times more money than Sarah ever put in. At a 7% return, Ryan ends with about $567,000 plus a paid-off house. A great result. Quick word on that 7%. The market's long-run average is closer to 10, but once you strip out inflation and the taxes you pay on gains, what you actually keep is around 7. That's the honest number. And it's the one we're using for both of them. Sarah never rushed. She invested $500 a month from day one for 30 straight years. Same 7%. She ends with about $610,000. Her house is paid off too. She just took the full 30 years. She does owe some capital gains tax when she sells, but even after that, Sarah wins by about $42,000 over 30 years. That is not the life-changing gap the internet screams about. The real story hangs on one thing: what the market does. At 5%, Ryan wins by almost $90,000. At 6%, Ryan still wins. At 7%, Sarah edges ahead. At 10%, the historical average, Sarah runs away with it by hundreds of thousands. The exact point where they tie? A return of 6.47%. Remember that number from the start? 6.47 is the break-even, and it is your mortgage rate. Below it, paying off wins. Above it, investing wins. In 2021, that break-even was 3%, and the market beat it every time. Today, it sits right on top of your rate, which is why this stopped being obvious. But decide on this table alone, and you're still missing the part that actually matters. Here's the truth almost no one says out loud. At 6.5%, this was never really a math problem. The math is basically a tie. So the decision actually gets made on three things a spreadsheet can't capture. Risk. Ryan's return is guaranteed. Sarah's is a hope. Liquidity. One of them can reach their money, and one of them can't. And behavior. Because most people don't do what they swear they'll do. That liquidity point is the trap that flips everything. So let's finally go back to year 12. 12 years in. Life happens. A job loss, a medical bill, a family emergency. Both of them suddenly need $20,000 within 60 days. Sarah opens her brokerage app, sells some shares, and the cash settles in 3 business days. She owes a little capital gains tax, maybe $1,000, and the crisis is over. Handled. Ryan doesn't have a brokerage account. For 12 years, every spare dollar went into the house. His equity is huge on paper, but this is what nobody warns you about. Equity isn't cash. You can't spend a wall. To pull that money out, he has to borrow against it. A home equity line of credit. And in 2026, those run around 7.5%. Higher than the mortgage he rushed to kill. Approval takes 4 to 6 weeks. And if he just lost his job, the single most common reason someone needs cash, he might not get approved at all. Same income, same house, same $500 a month. One of them had liquid wealth. The other had locked wealth. There's a quieter trap underneath all of this. Most people who swear they'll invest the difference never actually do it. They mean it, but life gets in the way. The data here is brutal. Studies tracking real investors show the average one gives up more than a percentage point a year, sometimes closer to 2, purely from panic and bad timing. A mortgage payment doesn't care how you feel that month. It just gets paid. That's the one real argument for Ryan, and it's a good one. So how do you actually decide? Forget your feelings for a second and look at your rate. If your mortgage is below 5%, the spread is still wide enough. Invest and don't look back. If you're above 7%, and millions of people who bought between late 2023 and 2025 are sitting right there, that's a guaranteed return you cannot beat after taxes. Pay it down hard. If you land between 5 and 7%, which in 2026 is where most of America lives, split it. Half to the mortgage, half invested. You capture the guaranteed return and the market upside, and you stay liquid. For most people watching this, that split is the smartest move on the board. Before any of that, 3 guardrails in order. First, if your employer matches your 401k, Take the full match before you touch anything else. It's 100% return on day one. Skipping a match to overpay a 6% mortgage is the single worst trade in personal finance, full stop. Second, build a real emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account paying around 4%. That cushion is what keeps you from ever needing Ryan's 7.5% line of credit. A Roth IRA helps too. You can pull your contributions out tax-free in a true emergency, and a paid-down mortgage gives you nothing like that. Third, inflation is quietly on your side. Your payment is frozen for 30 years while your income climbs, so that fixed mortgage gets cheaper in real terms every year you hold it. Pay it off early, and you throw that advantage away. One last thing that tilts the table. If you're a higher earner who itemizes and deducts your mortgage interest, your effective rate isn't really 6.5. It might be closer to 5. Every extra dollar you throw at the principal is killing interest you were going to write off anyway. So check whether the government is already subsidizing that loan before you race to pay it down. Let me be straight with you. When I ran these numbers for my own mortgage, the math said one thing, and my gut said the exact opposite. There's something deep in us that just wants the house paid off. No payment, nothing hanging over your head. I get it completely, and I won't pretend that feeling isn't real, because it is. But be clear-eyed about the price. In 2026, that peace of mind costs you somewhere around $42,000 over 30 years. And for a lot of people, that's a fair price to sleep at night. I'd never talk someone out of it. Maybe you think I'm undervaluing that peace of mind. If so, tell me in the comments, because I actually read them. Just decide it on purpose, because it's worth it to you, not because a rule from your parents' era decided it for you. One hard exception. If you locked a sub 4% rate back in 2021, this video isn't for you. Keep that rate. Invest the difference. The 2021 math still works perfectly for 2021 mortgages, and paying that off early would be a real mistake. So I won't tell you what to do. I'll hand you the one number that does. Take your rate. Hold it against 6.47. Below it, leaning toward investing makes sense. Above it, paying down makes sense. And in that messy middle, split it. Stay liquid, and pick the version that lets you sleep. At 6.5%, there is no wrong answer, only the one that fits your life. If this reframed how you think about your mortgage, do me one favor. Hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so the next one finds you. One more thing before you go. You just optimized the biggest debt of your life. There's another one. The #1 wealth killer that most people park in their driveway every single night, and it's quietly costing you far more than you think. I'll see you there.